2, 1.
Yeah, willing to die for what I'm living for. And if you didn't get it, go and live some more. I'ma run it up, gotta get some more, we ain't done enough. Can't fake or imitate, short grass so no snakes get in the way. John Madden called me, I got the play. In the maze, you gotta find a way. Or make one, living for the future, not yesterday. Wanna be great, do what it takes. Willing to rise for the right reasons. And you can't kick us out cause we not leaving. Bring all my flowers while I'm still breathing. Made a promise every day gon' be my season. Wanna sleep on greatness, better keep dreaming. Hall of Fame need to name this for one reason. I'm a legend. I'm a legend.
All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Ward Radio live stream. I am your host, Cardin Ellis, and today I'm joined in the studio by my lovely wife, Brittany the Shadow, as well as by special guest, Jeremy. How do you say your last name, bro, again?
Michel.
Yeah, Jeremy Michel, all right, like Michel in French, but totally different. And we're going to be talking about just the coolest topic, that the Book of Mormon dragons are real animals, and Jeremy has brought the receipts. Yes, I know all the anti-Mormons have their live streams going on, just trying to watchdog our every move. But we're here having fun, because that's what happens in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. You just have fun. You delight in truth. You denounce deception. You have fun. And you look like you want to say something, Jeremy.
Dang straight, dragons are real, and they are dinosaurs. I'm telling you what, dragons and dinosaurs disprove evolution. Watch me show it. You ready for this?
Yeah, give me 1 second to do the rest of my intro. And I love this. He's like chomping at the bit, dude. He's like, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna show these people. So really fast, everybody that's coming to the chat, please make sure that you like and share the stream with your friends. If you want to contribute to the channel, please consider sending us a super chat. We're gonna do our best to read all of the super chats live on air, as long as they're appropriate and germane to the conversation. Also, big shout out to the members of our channel that are showing up. Shout out to Monis, to Demortere. I don't even know how to pronounce that. But thanks, guys, for showing up. And this is going to be a lot of fun. So Jeremy, take it away, bro. And then I got so many questions, but you just go first. Hit me.
Dude, I'm selling you on this topic. I love this. Dinosaurs. My kids were just obsessed with them. They loved them so much.
Wait, so dinosaurs? Wait, you're talking dragons. Are we talking dragons or dinosaurs?
Ooh, that's the question, right? Are they the same thing? Are they different? What's the deal? What happens if you take the wings off of a dragon? What does it look like? Simple as that.
Dinosaur, okay.
Just answered it. I've got here my pet. This is the mascot for the night, maybe.
Okay, cool.
Draco Rex Hogwartsia. If you look at him up close.
Is that a real name?
No.
That is his scientific name given by the scientists. So, yeah, it's real. It's legit. So this.
Wait, really?
This is the real name of this dinosaur. It is a juvenile Pachycephalosaurus, the guy that, hits things with his head. And he's a juvenile. So, but if you look at him, look at his head. He looks so much like a dragon. They're so similar. It just is mind-blowing. And they're mentioned in the Book of Mormon. Why would Joseph Smith put dragons? Why would there be dragons in the Book of Mormon when Joseph Smith translated it? Because it's the word of God, right? It was translated by the gift of God. And did they actually see dragons? I say yes.
Okay. Now, dude, before we get started, I just have to show our audience. In making the thumbnail for this, I was so stoked. So this is the thumbnail that you guys love and know that showed up already, right? But we had a lot of fun in Midjourney coming up with other stuff. One of my favorite was dinosaurs chasing Mormon missionaries or fighting with Mormon missionaries. And not a single one of the videos of I'm just going to pull up Midjourney right now.
Okay,
so
moms
can
are
see.
not sending their kids on missions after seeing this video. They're like, I'm not sending my kid out there.
Yeah, so this was like really funny. This is my Midjourney prompt, and these are all the pictures. I said like dinosaurs fighting ancient Americans with graffiti on the wall that says Layman was here, and then it came up with some cool pyramids. And these two were by far my favorite, with the Mormons running away from the T-Rex. I thought this was like absolutely hilarious. So I am totally stoked to be here and find out. You think so? If I just want to summarize this thesis and make sure that we're operating from the same beginning point. You're saying that the dragons mentioned in Scripture, both in the Bible and Book of Mormon, were not only real animals, but you think that they were actually dinosaurs, and you've got all kinds of visual proofs of this, and that comes with that's a bold claim that comes with some challenges that you're going to overcome. But you're saying dragons are not only are they real, but they actually were dinosaurs.
I know I'm going to get a target painted all over me. It's just this crazy guy that's obsessed with kid stories, right? I mean, yeah, my kids love dinosaurs, and I think they're fun. I actually didn't care about dinosaurs until I was 35.
Okay.
Until I learned about this. And I was like, what is going on? First of all, I learned the word dinosaur wasn't invented until 1841 by Sir Richard Owen. It's a new word. Dragon legends are all over the earth, separated by oceans, different continents for thousands of years, and they're the similar legends. China, Europe, St. George still has a statue in many cathedrals and town squares today of him slaying the dragon. We got pictures all over him. We've got artifacts. You mentioned to me your ancestors are from Poland.
Yes.
And Krakow, Poland, if you study the history,
Krakow, rock on.
Krakow there's a dragon that was under the castle. And the king said, who can kill this dragon? It's eating our sheep. And this poor shoemaker named Scuba goes out and he kills the dragon and he wins the princess's hand. Sounds like a fairy tale. But I believe it's real, because guess what? The bone of the dragon is still hanging in Krakow, Poland today.
Wait, what?
The actual bone.
Like in a museum?
It's hanging on the cathedral.
Okay.
And I've got a picture of it in my book.
Bone of the dragon in Poland Cathedral. I'm totally typing this in right now, and I'm going to see what comes up. At Wawel Cathedral in Poland, large bones believed from a dragon hang on chains in the western entrance. Oh my gosh, I have got to image search this. There it is. Whoa. Dude, look at this, man. In Atlas Obscura, there's a whole entire article dedicated to the bones of the dragon that, oh my gosh, I'm going to pull this up for all the audience to see. Would you look at that? So they say that that's a dragon bone.
Now,
how do you know it's not just some washed up whale bone?
Obviously, they're going to say it's a whale bone, or they're going to say this or that, right? That's going to be the story.
Haters going to hate.
Yeah, dude, for real.
There's always a controversy around it. If there was, tell me something that's true that doesn't have a controversy around it, right?
Well, have they ever tested this bone? Like done genetic tests on it and been like, well, actually, it's the bone of, I don't know how many animals can be that big. You start getting into the megalithic territory there. Like, was a megalodon or something? So what? Keep going.
So did you know that inside the Manti Temple on the mural, there's also a long-necked animal?
Okay.
No. A giraffe?
Page 108 of my book.
Okay, just hold it up. Where's
shameless plug for my book.
Oh, yeah. Show them your book while I'm pulling this up, dude. This is crazy.
Dinosaurs in Scripture. Okay. Dun, dun, dun.
Okay, cool.
And we are now selling this on dinosaursinscripture.com, pre-selling it. It's not printed yet. It should be printed in about 30 days. So, and if you go on before this weekend, there is a 30% off if you type in Ward.
Okay, cool.
For Ward Radio.
Oh, I wish I would have known that before. I would have put it on the screen for you. Okay, so just show us what you got in your book and just put it up to the camera, man. Hit it up.
So we had the opportunity to go through the Manti Temple open house this last year. It was really awesome. It was a blizzard. Luckily, my grandma lives in Manti. It was super fun to see her and go through, and it's hard to see, but beautiful temple, right? They did huge renovations, and there was a big controversy about keeping the murals. And there was...
What page is that on? Because I got the whole thing right here, bro.
Page 108.
Okay, I'm going down to page 108. Wow, this is incredible, man. All right, keep going.
So inside the creation room, now there's different rooms, like with the live endowment session, you'd go from room to room, right? So the first room, which was the creation room, shows this mural on the back wall. And you see this long-necked animal, which I think is somewhat like a plesiosaur. Swimming in the water, and then this bird-like animal looking with teeth and no feathers. What kind of bird has no feathers? Dun, dun, dun.
Okay, cool. I get what you're saying, and I've been seeing a lot of people redoing dinosaur pictures, but now putting feathers on them instead of skin, and then they look just like giant birds.
Yeah.
And people are saying, hey, the paleontologist got this wrong. Okay, so keep going.
So dragons are everywhere. They're in the Book of Mormon, right? We know that the Nephites were fighting like dragons.
Okay.
The Lamanites fought like dragons. Why were they fighting like dragons? How would they even know what a dragon fought like? And then we can ask more questions before we answer them. What were the fiery flying serpents?
Okay.
Because we know that the Israelites, in fact, were being bitten by these serpents. It's so clear that Moses had to make one and put it on a staff so they could be healed, which is a beautiful allegory to looking to Christ, right? To live. He was the staff to which we would look at.
Wait, so I just pulled this up so the audience could see, and now they can see a little bit better here. I'm going to make it just a little bit closer. You're right. Holy smoke. In the creation room are depictions of a long-necked animal in water and a pterosaur or a pterosaur-like animal flying with no feathers. And look at this, man. Yeah, so this must have caused some serious controversy when they were doing the remodel, wondering if they should keep the dinosaurs, because that's not in step with secular academia. And we know that we want nothing more desperately than to be accepted by those that hate us.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm telling you, if
it doesn't mean I adopt your idea, by the way, before everybody starts saying, say, I got some challenges that are going to come up here, but we're letting this guy lay out his entire case, and it's awesome.
and I thought you were an easy sell.
Oh, okay.
Dang it. I got work to do, huh?
Yeah, no, so keep going.
Oh, so the thing is, if dinosaurs are millions of years old, like they're telling us because of their carbon dating or whatever, then we that means everything evolved. That means we evolved. That means ape to human evolution is a thing. And that's what the museums are teaching us. I mean, the museum we go to all the time, at the very beginning, it talks about the Big Bang. And then you go through and you're constantly learning that these dinosaurs are millions of years old. And we can go into the radiometric dating and all the errors with it. And we can talk about dinosaur bones that were actually carbon dated to 25,000 years old, not 65 million.
Wait, that's
years
happened?
Old. It has actually been carbon dated. And they will not carbon date a dinosaur bone. The scientists will not do it. Why? Because they already know that it's millions of years old. But some people have snuck in.
They've never carbon dated a single dinosaur bone.
They have now, but it had to be done in secret. It had to be done.
So they weren't the scientists, a word that didn't exist until like the 1870s. They were the people trying to fight against the scientists to prove that they were wrong. And you're saying that when it was carbon dated, it came back at 25,000 years old, is what you're saying.
Right. And the carbon dating itself only lasts 50 to 100,000 years. So if you carbon date anything and it brings back any result, that means it's not millions of years old. And
okay.
So the idea here is, why are they feeding our kids this information from the age of 2 on? Our kids are taught that dinosaurs were millions of years old, and it leads into this idea of evolution. It leads into this idea that we are evolved from random chance, not created in the image of God, like it says in the scriptures, like in our 4 accounts of the creation in the restored gospel.
Okay, cool. So keep going, bro. I don't want to stop you. Just bust this out, man.
Yeah, let's do it.
Hit us. So bring the receipts, my man. So far, we got an untested bone in Krakow, Poland, and we've got your Book of Mormon. But you were talking with the in the pre-show that you said, hey, this is not as old an idea or as new an idea as people think, and you brought out like a dictionary or something like that.
The dictionary. Yes.
Yeah, okay, so tell us, show the audience this.
I love it. This is my Webster's Collegiate Dictionary. Dun dun dun. Just a standard dictionary. Go to the section on dragons.
Okay.
You're gonna ask me what year it is. It says dragons are now rare, and you can pull that up. I have the picture.
Dude, oh my gosh. Oh, that's in the Discord. I see it right here. Okay, so literally in the 1830 dictionary,
Brittany,
it said this: dragon, noun, off draco, draconis, Greek drakon, now rare, a huge serpent, a fabulous animal. Oh, look, it's a fabulous animal. Okay, awesome. So we've got the hey, drag and dragon being fabulous. Awesome. I see it. So a fabulous animal, generally a monstrous winged scaly serpent, lizard, or saudion. A fierce or very strict person, especially a woman.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, dude, I'm liking this dictionary more and more. Okay, what else does it say, babe?
Any of several plants of the arum family popularly associated with dragons. A word used in the authorized version to translate several Hebrew forms, some of which are translated by jackal or serpent in the revised version.
Okay, so either way, it's saying now rare.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So even in the 1840s, it was just accepted that dragons were around.
Right, and I believe that the dragons became more and more rare. They became, I mean, we know animals are going extinct all the time, right? Of course, the dodo bird is the famous example. The moa on New Zealand went extinct. There's so many animals going extinct. These animals were pests. Okay, there was no endangered species list back then. It was kill on sight. Every redneck in town's going to come out and shoot one. And he's going to be a hero, hang it on his wall. As a matter of fact, the gargoyles of the day were believed to be a dragon they cut off its head, hung it up on the cathedrals, and because of the sound it made or something, it was a gargoyle. And those became the scary heads that were hung on cathedrals to this day. So there's so many legends. I mean, I could go on all day. I've got 10 or 15 in the book of dragon legends, and I wanted to know if this stuff was true. I'm a skeptic at heart. I'm not just going to swallow it.
Okay,
so
yeah, sure.
I went to the oldest library I could find up at the University of Utah, and I pulled out a bestiary for myself. I looked at it and I said, "What kind of animals?"
What page is this in your book?
And page 106, and I said, what is there to cross-reference this with the Book of Mormon, with the fiery flying serpents, with the dragons, with what the Jaredites encountered? And sure enough, I see an elephant, and I see actually this elephant's getting really hammered by this guy.
Show me the page so I can pull it up on the screen for you.
It's this page.
Okay, rock on. Gotcha. Okay, I can find it. Keep going.
So bestiary means a compendium of beasts. They're describing the animals of the day. It's written in some sort of Latin, and I'm having a hard time understanding it.
Okay.
My Latin's a little bit rusty. And I mean, these look a lot like dragons to me. And here they are on the top right image. They're actually feeding them. It's almost like they're trying to keep them in their caves or whatnot. And you notice they're different kinds. There's kinds with wings, kinds with 2 legs, 4 legs, weird looking ones. And I think they're something's going on here.
Okay, so if I want to steel man your position here, you're saying that there's way too many legends worldwide for there not to have been something, and I think that's a legitimate tack to take. Okay, I think it's a legitimate position, and it's not fair that the scientific community says, "Oh, hey, there was no transoceanic contact. There was no transoceanic contact. They say that all the time. There's no way that the civilizations of the old world ever knew the civilizations of the new world. They had to have developed in isolation, which is always what they want to say. Okay, well, now you start getting into Joseph Campbell territory and the hero of 1,000 faces. Now you start getting into Carl Jung territory. You start getting into like deep psychology speculation that is more fanciful than the religions that the religionists that try and say there was actual dragons, because now you have to say that, okay, all of them thought up the exact same scaly, winged, fire-breathing serpent, all in isolation, like all 15 for 15 civilizations that never, ever had contact, thought up the exact same thing, and not just biologically, the exact same thing in attitude, in size, in demeanor. That ends up becoming even less believable than the idea that there were dragons, even though the scientific community says no. So I believe that's your position on this one, right?
Yeah. Not only were they writing about them, they were drawing pictures of them, carvings of them. They have dragon blood in their recipes, dragon bones in their recipes. Marco Polo was a famous explorer in the 13th century. He went to China and he said that the emperor was pulling his chariots with dragons. Okay, ancient maps, page 98. I have an ancient map. It says, "Here be dragons" on the map. Why would they say "here be dragons" if they weren't warning about dragons? Watch out. Hic sunt dracones is what it would say in Latin. So, I mean, there's so much. It's hard to know where to start and where to go.
Well, no, just give us the top three. Start out with the top three. Top three receipts, baby. Hit me.
I mean, let's look at the skull of the Cyclops and of how an alien would reconstruct bones. Okay, so the paleontologists are doing the best they can. We've got this book, Dragons or Dinosaurs, and it compares the two. And if you look at the similarities, it's just ridiculous. So they have, if you take away the wings, it looks just like a dinosaur. So you got this skull. And the skull, if your alien was to reconstruct it, it looks like this creepy, scary monster, right?
Okay, cool. I'm looking at it right here.
When in fact, it's just a cat. This is a cat skull.
Oh my gosh, that's just what a cat skull looks like? Wow, they are ferocious
creepy.
underneath.
That thing's going to eat me alive.
Yeah, that looks like a freaking, like a stubby-nosed velociraptor. Would you look at that thing? Okay, so that's a skull.
I guess I'm not buying a cat.
Now, this is how
soon.
modern aliens would reconstruct the animal. You're right. I mean, once you add the creative license of where the nose is, and you think, okay, that's soft tissue. Where could the eyes have been? Yeah, you might think that they're in that front-facing socket. And then, yeah, I could see that being a fair representation. Meanwhile, oh my gosh, it's just a cat. Wow, okay. You bring up a compelling point. Do you have another example?
Yeah, so we've got the the other skull. I can't say what the hippopotamus, because we're going to show the whole thing.
Okay.
I like to cover the hippopotamus and have some suspense. But this skull obviously is creepy looking, right? Look at those tusks. And so these paleontologists are just doing the best they can. They're pulling the bones out of the ground. Why do you think we had a pink dinosaur, Barney? Because they just didn't know what color their skin was. We had no idea, and then later you just say, okay, this is a hippo. And so I think that we got ancient peoples. These ancient people were terrible artists. Well, and with all due respect to these wonderful
they were
people.
terrible. Well, the scientists were also terrible at a lot of things. I'm trying to steel man your position more too, is because before you start saying, oh, well, no, scientists are great at reconstructing what animals look like, don't forget, these are the same people that less than 100 years ago were trying to use pictures of bones and skulls like this of black people to say they're an inferior race. These were people that only 20 years before that were trying to say, because of their social attitudes, Mormons are a separate race. Like Blumenbach, the guy that invented racism as a scientific theory, you know what I'm saying, was invoking all of this evolutionary biology, for lack of a better term, in the name of doing horrible and heinous things. So like before you want to rush to these people's defense, you might want to think, okay, I'm going to take a step back and wait for some more new knowledge. And this is you laying the foundations of your argument. Okay, keep going.
I mean, the cradle of humanity was out of Africa, right? I mean, the foundation of racism came from the evolutionary theory. Oda Benga, I think that's how you pronounce his name. He was in a zoo in New York, and he was on display as one of an evolving human. And
like a person named
Oda Benga, and he later committed suicide.
No,
because they put him on display in a freak show essentially, and it was just the saddest story of what this sort of ideology of like this evolution over millions of years. It kind of brings to light what the consequences of evolution really are.
Oh my gosh, look at this. There's an article on this. This is heartbreaking. The man who was caged in a zoo. Oda Benga and fellow countryman at the St. Louis World's Fair in 1904. He was kidnapped from the Congo and taken to the U.S. where he was exhibited with monkeys. His appalling stories reveals the roots of a racial prejudice that still haunts us. Oh my gosh. The black clergyman who had been summoned to Harlem's Mount Olivet Baptist Church for an emergency meeting on the morning of Monday, the 10th of September, 1906, arrived in a state of outrage. Oh my gosh, he was a so-called pygmy that had been put on display in the monkey house of the city's largest zoo under the headline, Bushman shares a cage with Bronx Park apes. Oh my gosh, that's 20th century, people.
I mean,
wow.
We don't have to reach very far to find more. I mean, now that we've gone down this rabbit hole, I mean, we can go to the eugenics. I mean, the constitution of eugenics.
Yeah, holy crap.
Just terrible things. I mean, the Constitution says eugenics is the self-direction of human evolution. And, I mean, we know that eugenics was really Hitler's foundation for taking over 100,000 physically and mentally disabled people and exterminating them. And
so you're saying you have to believe in evolution before you can believe in human-led evolution, which is what all of the tyrants always bank on.
Yeah,
right?
they're essentially believing that they have to help natural selection along. They're helping eliminate the lesser degenerates. And I mean, I don't know how deep you want me to go.
No, I get we've made this point now. So let's keep going on with some more of the evidences and then, how you defend the challenges. And then we'll also let anybody that has a challenge to this, you know what I'm saying, can ask us any questions they got here. This is so fun, dude. This is like so rad. I love this. Keep going.
So when they take the deep time, they're using that in order to create this evolutionary fairy tale for an amoeba and a worm to evolve into a wombat and eventually evolve into a human. You need millions of years. And without the millions of years, the mechanism doesn't work. And that was what Darwin was essentially missing, was this millions of years. So I believe that if the dinosaurs weren't millions of years old, it turns evolution on its head. And when we're talking about evolution, once again, I want to stress there is change. My kids have different colors eyes than I do and different color hair. So there is definitely change, and a Shih Tzu poodle, right, is a new kind of a dog. And so there's different kinds of evolution in microevolution, but we're always referring to macroevolution or ape to human evolution, which is really just a big lie. And it's
okay. So now I have a couple of questions just really fast. How do you overcome? So okay. So you're saying, hey, there's no way psychologically we could have all just thought up dragons. They had to have been something real. And now you're suggesting that something real is dinosaurs. But they don't just think dinosaurs are 65 million years old because of carbon dating. And as you reasonably point out, they can only carbon date up to like 100,000 years from now. They couldn't reach 65 million. It's insane. Which, by the way, the fact they keep finding soft tissue of dinosaurs now that they thought never exists makes me think like there's no way this is 65 million years. But anyway, I would say they don't say that it's 65 million years old because of carbon data, but because of the strata of the rock that they're encapsulated in. So you would have to challenge what makes them think the rock layers are so old. And when you ask a geologist, hey, why do you think the rock layers are so old? I'm hyper summarizing this, but they've been able to test the gases in igneous rock to the age of 65 million years old. Therefore, one would have to reasonably surmise that the molten lava that made that rock is 65 million years old. So you're not trying to bridge a gap of maybe 6,500 to 2,500. You're actually trying to bridge a gap from 65 million to now. What else besides the absence of positive evidence in carbon dating do you have to think that like this gap is bridged?
So, I mean, when speaking on radiometric dating and the igneous rocks, the half-life of the isotope, which is what they're measuring, right? In order to get these measurements, they have to have a constant factor for millions of years. There's no way to measure the constants. So the only way to see if the test is actually functioning properly, we can't go back millions of years to see, is we test it with known rocks. So they've taken lava flows from Hawaii, Mount Kilauea. It erupted in 1959. They tested it, and it came back at 8.5 million years old. They took Mount Stromboli. They tested those lava flows. Came back millions of years old, and it erupted in 1801. So we're finding the discrepancy in the testing methods.
Wait, so they've tried doubling. So they've tested modern rocks when they know the lava flows happened, and the test came back saying they were 8 million years old when we know they were no less than 80.
Right. There's so many errors. It's showing constant deep time, and it's just, but they're going to throw it out. They're going to explain it away. They won't even test. They refuse to do carbon testing on it. So I've got all the tests on page. Where are we at?
Hit me. I'm looking it up right now. We are in. Oh, dude, I'm still loving the dragon bones on the wall. That is just so cool. My ancestors were rad. I hope I'm related to that guy. So anyway,
they killed the dragon.
Yeah, seriously.
Congratulations.
Yeah, them and Daniel. By the way, I see that in your book you tackle Daniel kills a dragon. I am so stoked to see what happens in that part right there. So anyway,
so I mean, we don't need to pull up the actual formulas, but I mean, we can look at it all day, but the evidence is there for those people that want to find it. And that's essentially what I want to lay out in this very simple summary. I'm a simple-minded person. I like to just see the evidence. But if I love the soft tissue, you mentioned the soft tissue discovery in the dinosaur bones showing actual blood vessels in a dinosaur bone that can't be more than 30,000 years old.
Wait, what?
I would love to show that video. It's just insane.
And that's in the Discord. Oh my gosh, that's in the Discord too. Okay, real dinosaur, still soft biological tissue on ABC's 60 Minutes. Okay, we gotta watch this one. We gotta watch this one. Okay, good. Fortunately, it's a short video, only 2 minutes and 44 seconds. This is gonna be a lot easier to play. But here. I
mean, I ask 100 people, 1 in 100 have heard about this discovery. Why isn't this all over the news? This isn't monumental. And when you listen to this, she's afraid to tell people. Why would a scientist be afraid to share an amazing discovery?
Okay, that's true. Okay, well, it wouldn't be the first time that 60 Minutes lied about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Anybody familiar with the financial scandal of, what was that, 2023, babe? And we had to cover the 60 Minutes.
Yeah.
Although I do have to say, 60 Minutes, I believe it saved CBS. This was their flagship program for a while. And, dude, I grew up listening to that click, 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 click. Welcome to 60 Minutes. So it just has a special place in my heart. I won't dog on it too hard. But either way, okay, so here is 60 Minutes, real dinosaur, still soft biological tissue found on ABC's 60 Minutes. Here we go. Oh, wait. Oops. Sound was bad there. Hold on. Let me put this
bone
up.
in acid.
Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1, go.
What happened next happened by mistake. Mary put some fragments of the bone in acid to dissolve away the outermost layer of mineral. But
Okay,
the
cool.
acid worked too fast,
All right.
and all the mineral dissolved away. Being a fossil, there should have been nothing left. But there was, and it was elastic, like living tissue.
This is the piece.
No.
Whoa, interesting. Okay.
She showed us video she took under the microscope.
That's really what happened?
Yes.
That's the dinosaur
Yeah.
bone?
Without mineral now. That's what was left.
It looked like the soft tissue she would have expected to find if it had been modern bone. This was impossible. This bone was
impossible, they said. 'Cause
Okay.
First of all, this was an accidental discovery, okay? They did not intend for this to happen. They would have never thought in a million years, pun intended, that this discovery would have been found, because she was a biologist and they were transporting the T-Rex bone by helicopter and they let her have a piece to play with. So she played with it and she had fun. And this is the discovery, once again, by accident.
Okay, here we go.
68 million years old.
So you see this and you think, what? You say,
Didn't want to tell anybody.
you'd be ridiculed,
Yes.
right?
And by the way, let's not overlook that. That's a very, very, very powerful, a very powerful deterrent to truth telling.
So I said to my technician, okay, do it again. I don't believe it.
And yet, in sample after sample, they were there. Things that looked suspiciously like flexible, transparent blood vessels. She finally mustered the courage to tell Jack.
She said she dissolved the bone away and there
Courage.
were blood.
Which, by the way, I don't know who Jack is, but
So-
like he sounds like an alpha chat if he's the dude that you got to go tell.
So Jack Horner's famous. This is the guy that advised on all the Jurassic Park movies. He's the reason that the raptors move their heads like birds, because he believes that, you know, chickens are raptors. That's his belief. They evolved, right? That's his idea.
Okay.
And I feel bad for the poor guy because he wants a dinosaur so bad since he was a kid. But anyway, we won't go into that. But he is famous.
Okay.
And she was afraid to tell the guy. And I later did more research. And guess what? She waited an entire year to tell any scientist about this. Just FYI.
Okay. All right. Let's keep going. 60 minutes.
Finally mustered the courage to tell Jack.
She said she dissolved the bone away and there were blood vessels. And, you know, I was like shocked. I mean,
How could that be?
How could that be? That's right.
The things Mary was finding inside dinosaur bones,
Look at that.
blood vessels, and even what seemed to be intact cells, pose a radical challenge to the existing rules of science.
Yeah, and that means that we could actually put them in the amber, replicate them with frogs, and pay tickets for a theme park with a T-Rex in it that's totally safe until it's not.
I like it.
Oh, dude. Okay, keep
It's a good
going.
idea.
Yeah, it's freaking rad.
That organic material can't possibly survive even 1,000,000 years, let alone 68 million. Mary, Jack, and their team published their B-Rex findings in a series of papers in the journal Science and were promptly attacked.
Oh, by the way, notice that they just printed test results that were done twice. And these are the same people that developed the scientific ethics of historical inquiry. And what's one of the first scientific ethics that they use to say most likely proves that a testimony is true? Criterion of embarrassment. And this woman is so dedicated to her truth that she will publish something that she knows so well that it will be ridiculed, that holy smoke, I waited a year to tell anybody about it. But good on her for being so committed to at least just saying what she found scientifically. That is, she has guts. No matter where she falls in this argument, she has guts.
Critics said their samples might have been contaminated.
Oh, of course.
Or that the supposed blood vessels were actually something called biofilm, a type of slime. But as Mary showed us,
Oh, and by the way, I'm sure that woman didn't know what biofilm was. And I'm sure that she accidentally just, she just missed that one. You know, she just missed it. Oh, yeah, the biofilm. Yeah, I was so afraid of telling anybody about this because, oh, yeah, the biofilm. That's, yeah. You know, it's like, come on, bro. There's no way a girl that understands the gravity of what she's about to say is just missing out on biofilm, you know?
But as Mary showed us, she's been able to replicate her findings. These are pieces of an even older dinosaur, a well-preserved 80-million-year-old duckbill. When she dissolved it away in acid...
Let's put this under the scope here.
Well, look.
Is that a blood vessel?
This is a blood vessel.
You're
You
kidding.
see the branches right there? And look at all of them. And it's so consistent over and over and over again. We do this bone and it comes out and I get excited every time. I can't help it.
Over and over and over again. Okay, so this is good science. It's
Now, is it good
repeatable.
just because it supports your thesis or what?
Of course. It's good because it's repeatable, because it's really falsifiable.
True.
It is observable, tangible evidence, okay? Now, this is why she's getting attacked. So, first of all, this is not a debate between science and religion. It's against good science versus bad science, right? We support good science, of course.
It might be an argument between science and academia, I think is what you're saying. Because academia has stopped being the gatekeepers of the scientific method and the gatekeepers of the academic narrative. And I think what you're taking issue with is, yeah, good science versus bad science, good science versus the establishment. I get what you're saying.
Well, there's two types of science as well. There's operational science and there's historical science. Historical science, you never can go to where it happened. You weren't there. No one was there. Except in the case of Moses, and we can get into that in a minute. What did Moses actually see in the creation? But no one else was there. So in a crime scene, for example, how do we know who murdered the person, right? We have to then do forensic science. That's going into history. And so that's where it gets a little muddled, a little blurry.
Well, it's very simple. We choose the tribe of the person in the argument we like the least. Then we stack the court and the jury with people that are going to think the way we do. Yes. And then we vilify the person using tropes and stereotypes in order to elicit the response we want out of these people that we may or may not have followed and monitored their social media profiles on until we get what we want. And then we say they were judged by a jury of their peers.
That doesn't come from any personal experience.
Okay. No, it actually doesn't. I was just making up, like, who was the guy that wrote The Firm?
Oh.
Come on, who's that famous author? He's the Michael Crichton of corporate mysteries.
That was a good one. That was a really good.
I'm botching my pop culture reference right now. I'm totally botching it.
We all know.
All right.
We all know The Firm.
Yeah. So
Are you
keep
talking
going.
about John Grisham?
Yes, a John Grisham. Yeah, exactly. It sounds like a John Grisham novel. Dude, you go, girl.
I Googled it.
Oh. I was about to say, babe, I'm pretty sure that's way before your time, man.
I don't know what that is.
That was like
but,
my dad's time,
yeah.
man. Okay, keep going. Keep going.
So the science, once again, is pretty clear here. We've carbon dated bones. We're finding soft tissue that's not more than 30,000 years old. Now, what are the other scientists doing about this research? Let's see here. Mark Armitage, he finds
What page are
more
we
of
on?
this stuff, page 55.
Okay, hit it.
So he is not technically a PhD. He's more of a, just full disclosure here, we want to be completely honest. This guy is more of a microscope tech.
Okay.
He also owns a microscope sales company. So he's got a lot of experience in the industry, 29 years, okay? He's studying these soft tissues, and he's a creationist. He's an open creationist, and that's a scary thing to be some days, be an open creationist. Anyway, so he works for California State University.
Okay.
There's an exchange that goes on with his supervisor, and he gets fired. Okay.
Okay.
And why does he get fired? Because he's a young Earth creationist, and he sues. He in turn sues and wins outside of court, or sorry, they settle outside of court for almost $400,000.
Okay.
I don't think they wanted this to go public, but they wanted to silence him. They wanted to shut him up because this stuff is making headwaves in the scientific community. And I mean, Mary's still under attack. If you watch her most recent information releases on, I just watch the videos, I don't read the articles, but if you watch her most recent video in North Carolina State University, where she's at now, there's a QR code linking straight to the video. She's still getting attacked, and they're not fighting her science. They're not fighting what she's teaching. They're just attacking what she does in general. They haven't debunked it. So that's to me, that's another huge proof.
Okay, well now I got
dinosaurs aren't millions of years
so
old.
we've effectively laid out the thesis that, hey, dragons are real because they were misclassified and then renamed as dinosaurs. And it was kind of a way that, science was doing its thing, because, for example, like this is what science does best. It takes something obvious that all of us know what it is and then gives it, a technical sounding name. And then all of a sudden people think, oh, well, this person's the expert of that thing. Like, I don't know. Take hand pain. Say like, oh my gosh, my arthritis is hurting today. Well, then a guy walks and he says, oh, well, those are metabolic metabolite palpitations or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And like, oh, well, this person knows everything because they just gave it a technical name, right? Yeah. I just made up that word, by the way. That's just like total BS. So
they're totally doing an appeal to the experts. It's constantly trust the experts, listen to the experts. You're not smart enough to understand.
Well, we want good experts. I love technocracy. Like I love meritocracy and technocracy, but it's possible to be a bad expert.
Absolutely. We want experts in their fields, but I do worry at times we're not making decisions for ourselves, and we're coming to where the Catholic Church was reading the Bible for the people. We have the scriptures in front of us. We can read them every day, and we should. But Martin Luther changed that. And I feel like people need to make their own decisions on this and dig deeper. I mean...
Okay, well, hold on. Here's my question. So we've effectively laid out your thesis that dragons were real and they were misclassified as dinosaurs. And then we've bridged the gap of dinosaurs not being 65 million years before humans, but coexisting with humans. But at the same time, I also kind of think, well, isn't it kind of convenient that they disappeared right before photographs? You know what I'm saying? Like, isn't it kind of like, so like, let's put on our Skeptic of You hood now or Skeptic of You shades now. And, here's my question is like,
maybe they just don't want to be photographed, but they're still here.
Okay. Now, yeah, maybe they're just hyper intelligent. You know what I'm saying?
Ever thought of that?
I saw an interesting interview on the Joe Rogan podcast with who's the guy that lives up in Santa Barbara that's the biologist that's super cool. Joe Rogan interviews not a biologist. He's the guy that had that TV show in which he was chasing down the supposedly endangered, and he was finding species that were declared extinct. Here it is. Forrest Galante. Okay, so Forrest Galante actually had a really interesting take on dragons in which he said something along the lines of, dragons, if they were real and they could fly, they would most likely have bodies and bones that were a lot more like birds than like mastodons and land-bearing mammals, which would make them a lot harder to preserve and find in the natural geological record. And he thinks that might be part of the reason why the extinct dragon is maybe not so prevalent or easy to put a scientific thumb on and gain information about, whether you believe in them or not, just because their taxonomy would have to involve flight, which would make them very light.
I love that you're going into the fossilization of these animals, because that is a theory. There are several theories that come out of the secular world about dragons. One is that ancient people pulled bones out of the ground, saw them, right? Like we find the dinosaur bones and said, oh, dragons. That is one theory. I've heard another really bizarre theory. The book called An Instinct for Dragons. Don't read it. It's a waste of your time. But this evolutionist, he believes...
So now you're the one censoring. You're the one hiding the truth.
Oh, no. Please read it by all means. Enjoy.
It's like the Spalding letter, or else the Captain Kidd novels, or like when they say like, but View of the Hebrews, the Book of Mormon is just a View of the Hebrews. You're like, please read it. Read View of the Hebrews and come back and tell me if you think that's it.
Yes, please. I mean, read this thing. He says that our ancient primate ancestors, since we evolved from apes, they were afraid of three things in the jungles: snakes, jaguars, and birds of prey, raptors in the skies. So what do we now believe in? It goes into our DNA. We evolve, and it comes out as a dragon. Okay, that is pretty exciting to me. Pretty wild. So I don't feel like I've given you enough information. So
keep going.
We've got to talk about the Delk print, the Ica stones, the
let's
Amazon
go.
painting.
Jump right in, bro.
Oh my gosh.
Summarize this entire book in the next 20 minutes, bro. Like, summarize everything.
I'm just going to start reading page by page to you. But let's go to the Delk print. I think you have a picture of it, or if not, go to page 22, because this is beautiful. I actually have a replica at my house, and I wanted to bring it here, but it's like 50 pounds. It's like 3.5 feet long, and it's an actual human footprint with a dinosaur print touching it. Okay, it's called the Delk print, found in Texas in the Paluxy River.
Okay, right here. Wow, interesting. Okay, I see it on the side. Okay, keep going.
So this print was found in the year 2000, I believe. And he went to go sell it in 2008, and he dusted it off, went to clean it, and he found that the dinosaur print had another print touching it. Human print touching dinosaur print. Petrified. Tell me this doesn't get any more clear that they lived and coexisted together.
Wow. And also, I see what you say in your book here, that the Paluxy River in Glen Rose, Texas is known for its dinosaur trackways, particularly those of the Glen Rose Formation, which were discovered by a local schoolboy, George Adams, in 1909. These tracks were later studied by paleontologist Roland T. Bird. That's the exact same year that all of the scientists had a pygmy in not the exact same year, but the exact same decade that the scientists on the other side of the nation were putting pygmies in cages with freaking monkeys in the name of science. This guy's saying, hey, wait a second. The scientific narrative may be incorrect and has been incorrect for 70 years, calling these things dinosaurs. 65 million years before man, they might have walked with man. And you say here that a dinosaur track was found with a man's footprint in there. And I'm going to zoom in on this. This is a compelling image right here. I'm going to put it in the middle so everybody can see. So when I zoom in, it occupies the entirety of the frame. But I mean, look at that, dude. That is pretty incredible. There's a human footprint right there.
And to verify that this wasn't a fake or a fraud, because there is a bit of a battle going on between creation and evolution, right? There's all sorts of controversies regarding this. They had the thing CAT scanned. Okay, they took it to the hospital, stuck it in where you'd put your head, and had the thing CAT scanned to verify that it wasn't a carving, wasn't etched out. It was truly imprinted by a living dinosaur and a living human. And you could put your foot in that. I mean, it's...
I hope they were like besties and not like predator prey.
Yeah, I was about going to say that one. The dinosaur footprint's coming at an angle from like behind the human. It's kind of like maybe the dinosaur just found lunch.
Yeah. No, they were besties.
Yeah, they were just holding hands and skipping, and I mean,
it was a pet.
Yeah.
It was a pet that walked 24 inches taller.
Maybe she was the mother of dragons.
Okay, cool. All right, keep going, bro.
Is that the kind of pet that walks you, or do you walk your pet? Ooh,
yeah, true that.
That's a dad joke. Okay, so there is so much. Okay, so Amazon jungle.
Well, here's the CAT scan. I'm looking at the images of the CAT scan. What did the CAT scan tell people? Due to accusations of fraud, Carl Baugh at the Creation Museum in Glen Rose, Texas, takes the artifact in for a CAT scan. The willet print found in the same layers was clearly a man's print with 5 toes, arch, instep, and works. And a man could have stepped into the print today. All right. And so what else came of this CAT scan, bro?
It's sitting in the museum proving that, I mean, once again, guys, this goes to show that they're not millions of years old, and that has massive implications. They cannot let this be true. And when I say they, our brothers and sisters that believe we evolved from apes.
Well, and then also look at this. Holy crap, your book is amazing. I've never seen these before, but researcher and author Vance Nelson comes up with these petroglyphs in Peru that have a freaking brontosaurus in there.
It's a brachiosaurus.
A brachiosaurus. What the heck?
You're well
What's this,
educated.
bro? Look at this. Mural found painted on a cliff wall in the Yamon district, Utcatumba province in Peru.
That is some good Peruvian speaking.
Wow, holy smoke. This is incredible, bro.
And they're trying to kill the thing, clearly. Look at the spears. Look at the shields. I mean, there's scale here. There's a lot of... And Vance is a intrepid explorer. He's extremely meticulous. He actually took the pigments and had them tested to ensure that this was dated and properly documented for the time frame and whatnot. And I've met Vance. He's from Canada.
What came back?
He's a great guy. He has a beautiful book called Dire Dragons. I have it somewhere. And he actually goes through and compares the dragon legends and what kind of dinosaur he thinks they would represent. Really great book.
Really?
And this is his other book, Amazon Expeditions. He's an amazing author, and I respect him a lot. So he's made a lot of discoveries.
Okay. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but what about unicorns? Now you have to say, just give us the TLDR on unicorns.
I wore my shirt.
The one that I was.
Unicorn vibes.
Yes. So were unicorns real? Because dragons and unicorns are both in the Bible, and the Bible is the Word of God, right? So they must be real.
Yeah.
And I believe they are.
Okay, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that premise, but like 90% of it, yes. Because we do believe the Bible to be the book, the Word of God, as long as it's translated correctly.
Yes.
Okay, and so there's nothing wrong with an 1840s person translating something in the way that he perceives it as, being necessary for the dynamic translation. Doesn't necessarily mean it was that thing, right?
And this does go into the translation of unicorn. And unicorn is actually today in the scientific name of the Indian rhinoceros. And I'm winging it here because I don't have my notes, but the Indian rhinoceros is bicornus, excuse me. Hold on. Someone look up the Indian rhinoceros.
Okay, cool.
It's the unicornus is the scientific name because the Indian rhinoceros today has a single horn. Now, there's the monotheris. I'm just totally screwing this one up. Monosaurus.
Okay.
Scientific name of?
It's the Rhinoceros unicornis.
Unicornis.
Also known as the greater one-horned rhinoceros, great Indian rhinoceros, or Indian rhino. Okay, keep going.
And the 1828 dictionary describes a rhinoceros with one horn. Now, most of them are extinct. The Monotherosaurus, that's what it is. Okay. We've all seen The Mandalorian, right? When he's saved by Grogu. And that thing is coming at him, and he picks it up, and it's all muddy, and it's coming. I love that.
Well, you really do bring up an interesting point here. It seems like the main part of your argument is a very similar argument to what people used to say about camels and lions in the Old Testament. A lot of people say that Daniel in the lion's den had to have been myth. It couldn't have been real because there was no lions in ancient Israel. There was no lions. The furthest lions you could find were 1,000 miles away. This is, wait for it, anachronism in Scripture that proves that it's all fake, right? Until finally they actually figure out, holy crap, there were lions all over the Levant. There were lions all over Turkey, Israel, all over the old world. And it was actually a subspecies that now is completely extinct. And the last one that they have documented as being hunted was in like 328 or something like that BC by the crew of Alexander the Great. Apparently, like, Alexander the Great liberated a city of these Eurasian lions that were had like, the villagers would go out and hunt them because they would kill children that were like playing out in the fields. They would actually hunt the humans for food because that's a tasty meal that doesn't run as fast as the gazelle, And so we realized that humankind destroyed the Eurasian lion, and most likely, if captured and used as a torture mechanism, that would have been the ferocious lion of the lion's den. So it wasn't an anachronism of Scripture where Scripture had to catch up with science, admit that it was fake and mythological, and then get in line with academia and say God is not real. In reality, academia had to take a little slice of humble pie and realize the Scripture was actually speaking more truthfully than the academic orthodox wisdom was, and the tables were turned. So you're saying the same thing could be happening with dinosaurs and unicorns, but in this case, you're saying saying it might have been the Indian rhinoceros.
Oh, beautifully said. Yes, I love it. The lion.
Yeah, but the Indian rhinoceros is a rhino, not a horse.
Oh, the horse thing. Oh, my daughter just loves unicorns so much. I don't want to take that horn off the horse. It's magical. It's so beautiful. I'm just going to leave it. It's on Brittany's shirt. Let's just leave it the way it is.
Okay.
But I believe it in the ancient times. I don't know how it came to be, but I believe it was in fact a one-horned rhinoceros. That's my opinion. The lions, by the way, the King of England killed lions, right? I think they were up into England. I mean, he had them all over his shield, all over their flags.
Yeah.
The flag of England. By the way, the flag of Wales today is still a dragon. The flag of Bhutan, too. There's 2 flags in the world that are still dragons on them today.
Cool.
Based.
Yeah, for
Dude,
real.
I want a dragon flag for my country, right?
I just
All
want
right.
a dragon.
Everybody wants a dragon. We love them. They're fun.
Until you watch Game of Thrones and you don't realize what you're asking for.
No, I still want it.
You still want it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So keep going. Jeremy, this is awesome. Keep going.
I mean, Mesopotamian carvings, long-necked animals, long-necked sauropods. I mean, they're naming these. They're so prevalent across archaeology that they're now naming them serpopards. So this is the name. If we go to the Narmer palette on page 20,
Okay, cool. Rock on.
the Egyptian palettes, and it's anyone's guess what these animals are. My guess is the long necks look a whole lot like a Brachiosaurus type animal. So serpopards, a mix between a serpent and a leopard. That is the weirdest name.
And here's the archaeological evidence in ancient Egyptian sculptures. Wow, everybody. Oh my goodness gracious. Look at that. Dude, that's legit, man.
Then the Mesopotamian cylinder on the next page. And I mean, the Ica stones on page 25. The Ica stones are really fun because the Ica stones were found in Peru as well, and they were carved with humans on the actual stone.
Oh my gosh, look at that right there.
the Chinese guy writing on it. Yeah, that's a Chinese artifact. Oh, I want to get you to the Suicide of Saul painting. That's one of my favorites. But
Okay.
the Ica stones are on. The Ica stones are a little bit awesome. 25. I mean, we've got people being eaten by these things in the carvings on the Ica stones. We've got. I don't know if they're writing them. They're kind of.
Wait, but so I'm on here on page 25 and I'm not seeing what you're talking about.
Just
Oh,
one
these
bit.
are the ecostones. Okay. I got to put it a little bit more on the right. Sorry, your page is so big and this does both sides.
This is
So-
going to the printer like this, I believe. So
Yeah,
it's like
no,
a
it's
full
a
spread.
2-page book. Yeah. Okay, so here we go. These are the Inco stones right here. Wow. So what do these date back to?
So these were found by a local farmer in a cave, and he started bringing them out and selling them. And I'm not sure that the dating on them, but
But they're Peruvian as well.
they're Peruvian, and they found hundreds and hundreds of these things. And they think that I mean, let me just take both sides of the argument because I'm a skeptic too, guys. He denied that they were real. So he essentially said, I made them all up. But that's because the government was prosecuting him for stealing national artifacts. So if he didn't say he made them up, he was going to jail.
Oh, so they accidentally created their own. Yeah, they almost. Okay. Yeah, so the government ended up creating a reason for him to say, I stole them. Now, we all know that, for example, forensics can override provenance. We do that all the time.
Right.
So he's saying the provenance is false for fear of going to prison. Can we forensically do anything to these to override his provenance?
I would like to know and dig deeper on it. The thing is, if you
Okay.
if you wear a pair of Oakley sunglasses, just because you have a fake pair doesn't mean that the original Oakleys are also fake, right? So I mean, I believe there's originals on it.
Okay. This one's not as convincing for me as others, but keep going.
Sure. There's so many that we can keep going. There's paintings in Australia. There's I like the long necks carving on Bishop Bell's tomb in England.
Okay, which page is that on?
On 29. The reason I like this one is because he has carved or etched or all around the tomb different animals that are known animals today. And so with these known animals, there we go.
Yeah. Gotcha. Right here. Keep
Just
going.
to the right. So with these known animals, like we clearly have a fish, a bird, an eel, a bat, and a fox. And then you have these long-necked animals. So like, okay, why are we naming real animals here or carving them? And then finding this long-necked guy, another serpopard? Or do you think that long-necked animals or dinosaurs might have lived with man? Okay. Mark Twain said it's easier to fool people than to convince them they have been fooled. The next page is my favorite painting by Mr. Frenchman, Peter Bruegel.
Okay.
Bruegel. I don't know how you
This
pronounce
one right
it in
here.
French.
Where is it? Where is it?
So 30.
Okay, cool. Gotcha. Right here.
Let's see. Keep going. So this painting is referencing 1 Samuel in the Bible. There you go, to the left.
Oh, okay. All right.
Keep going, a little to the left. So this is where Saul actually committed suicide in this final battle, and he was killed. And look where the
Okay.
arrows are pointing. You can zoom in real close, and you find these animals, and they're riding on top of them.
Oh my gosh. And it's straight up like brachiosaurs, man. Holy smoke. Okay. So keep going.
So I just think Fred Flintstone was right. There's Fred Flintstone riding on his dino. Come on.
Yeah, dude, that's for real.
Why didn't we just watch our shows when we were kids and listen and learn? Okay, the
You know how people say like The Simpsons can like tell the future, right? Because so many things in those episodes. What if Fred Flintstone really was right all this time?
It was Fred. Listen to Fred, guys.
Okay.
The Babylonian Gate was excavated in 1899.
Okay.
Was it 1899.
Okay.
And I think they had to stop because of the World War I or whatever, but they excavated it, and you could see that they found these lions carved on it, these bulls or an oxen, and then this dragon. Why are they putting two real animals with a fake animal if they weren't real? And the dragon has like a little horn on it. Pretty funky.
Wow, dude, this is true, man. Dude, these are really great questions to be asking. Okay. So now I got a question. All of this is very compelling, and much like who was not Caesar, who was the Roman leader that said to Paul, "Almost thou convincest me to be a Christian," right?
Agrippa, King Agrippa.
Yeah, King Agrippa. Almost thou convincest me to be a creationist, catastrophist, unicorn loving, dinosaur petroglyph wearing, awesome dragons or dinosaurs guy, right?
Well, good thing we're not done yet, huh?
Okay, no, I know we're not done yet. I know we're not done yet. That's great. But I do have to ask this question. We believe the Bible to be the Word of God as long as it's translated correctly. And we don't believe the Bible. We don't follow sola scriptura. And as I have studied the work of Jonah Barnes and of Dave Butler and of all these guys who've, Margaret Barker and people that have, even Dan McClellan, the great, barely hanging on to his Mormon card, a high priest of secularism more than a high priest of Mormonism, according to his worst detractors, right? Everybody admits that, okay, the Bible was changed to suit the political narrative and needs of the time by those that were empowered multiple times. It's a phenomenal work. And the level of sacrifice that has been put into its transmission is unimpeachable and an act of God. But whether it's the Deuteronomists, or whether it's the people that inserted the long ending of Mark, or whether it's the people that messed around with the translation of the Trinities, or whatever, there have been documented scribal errors and changes that have happened throughout time. Now, I don't think it's, as many errors and omissions as the biggest critics of the Bible would have you believe. I think the secularists want to lampoon it far too much. But then I also think the sola scriptura purists want to defend it way too much, when in reality, I think we have to read it with the gift of discernment, with the understanding that it is the word of God and he's trying to speak to us. And when I do that and I study the origins of the Book of Mormon, I find out that, holy smoke, most likely that first chapter and verses of the second chapter of the book of Genesis were most likely added after the return from Babylon. And that creation myth, like, you're aware of the two creation myths in the book of Genesis, right?
Right.
There's one that starts in Genesis 2:4, and then it's believed that that was the actual beginning of the Bible. And that was the not the anthropomorphic, the anthrocentric creation myth. And if you read it, it basically says that, like, out of a mist and darkness, God created man, and God walked with man. And man was the center of the creation. Whereas when the first chapter was added to the beginning, like a prequel, and then called chapter 1, when they actually gave chapter and verse to everything.
And this is where
Well, here's my question. This is where all of the arguments stem from. Is not from the second chapter of Genesis, but from the first. And I watch a lot of these really fun channels, like Answers in Genesis, like Creationist this, Creationist that. And I think it's great. But at the end of the day, when I read the Bible from that second chapter, not from the first, most of these arguments just go away, not because the secularists are right, but just because it doesn't matter. So are we sometimes accidentally, Mormons have two problems. Sometimes we try and be way too much like the secularists and the leftists and the social progressives. But then we also have this problem on the right where we try so desperately to be Protestants, and like sola scriptura Calvinists. And I don't think that's correct either. So, like, how do we know that we shouldn't stumble in the landmine of bad science and gatekeeping over here, but how do we know we're not doing this on the left and just adopting Protestant creationism?
So this is so beautiful that you didn't tell me this before, because you said I'm not telling you what I'm going to say before the show, right?
Save it for the show.
And I'm so glad, because I'm going to just skip the translation of Great Wells in Genesis. I'm going to skip the flood evidence of dinosaur bones in huge graveyards all over the earth, buried by massive, and how fossilization takes place. And I'm just going to say thank God for the restoration.
Oh, by the way, if you guys have any questions, send them to us in a super chat. We'll read them in the next 5 minutes. We've been having a lot of fun here. I haven't announced super chats or anything like that. So keep going.
So this is where I give you my gift that I promised I would give you. So
okay.
This is the 1909 statement from the First Presidency for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, where they have clarified the doctrine for us. And that's what we need. We need the Book of Mormon. We need modern prophets. We have 4 accounts of the creation, for heaven's sake. Right?
Okay.
That's I'm just screaming this to the world.
So is
by
this
the way.
like something you just made up, or something that it's made to look like the Proclamation of the Family,
this
right?
is the 1909 statement. That's the excerpts from, and this is the full version, okay?
Ah, okay.
So you can hang it on your wall for the whole family to see.
All right.
The doctrines that we need to display in our home are the restoration of the gospel, the family, right? The proclamation, Jesus the Christ, the living Christ, and the creation of the earth, that we are made in the image of God. Here it specifically says, he was speaking halfway through the first paragraph. He was speaking as Moses, the prophet historian, learned, as we are told in all the wisdom of the Egyptians, when making this important announcement, was not voicing a mere opinion, a theory derived from his researches into the occult lore of that ancient people. He was speaking as the mouthpiece of God. And his solemn declaration was for all time and for all people. No subsequent revelator of the truth has contradicted the great leader and lawgiver of Israel. Now, truth is eternal, and they make that in this statement. It doesn't change. No matter what comes out before or after, the creation of man was real. We did not evolve. And it goes into this. I just love this statement because, I mean, and that's what brings me to a whole nother topic. The church is not neutral on evolution. Can I say that really loud and clear?
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
The church is not neutral on evolution. Go to the church's website and Google it. What's the church's stance on evolution? And what's going to pop up? The church's neutron evolution. And what are we going to reference? We're going to reference the New Era article, right? Not the first presidency statement. Why did we go straight to the New Era article that your 12-year-old is reading? And who wrote the New Era article? That's the other question.
Some establishment beta that's a secret progmo who's trying to brainwash the children of the church with all of that illicit modern science. Next thing you know, he's planting gay pride flags in the background of the cartoons, man. Is that what we're saying?
You nailed it.
Oh, yes. No, I just guessed. Oh, okay, so what?
So
what do you do?
I mean, let's just jump to the back page. I mean, this is by the way reprinted. Okay. From the first presidency is reprinted in our Ensign in 2002, and I just happen to have one here with me.
Dude, you are so good at this. I love this, bro. This is so fun.
Okay, Ensign. Dun, 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 2002. I bought this on eBay. Get yours today, February.
Okay.
And yes, it is in here on page 27. And yes, 26. I have it memorized. The origin of man.
The origin of man.
The first presidency speaks. Guys, does the prophet speak and then just retract his words? Come on. He doesn't. They're eternal words. It is held by some that Adam was not the first man upon this earth, and that the original human being was a development from lower orders of the animal creation. These, however, are the theories of men. Theories of men. So that's why I love dinosaurs and want to teach about them, is because I want us to know they were created in the image of God. That's the whole goal. It all points to truth. It all points to us not evolving and that we are just divine. It gives me a lot of confidence in my life. That's why I love it, is because it's given me confidence knowing who I am and not being this little wimpy middle school kid. Oh, now I'm like going into my therapy session with you guys.
Yeah, for real. Good job. We'll charge you. I'll charge you half what your therapist does to listen, bro.
But the gospel is the best therapy, is it not? Knowing our identity, and so our kids don't have to dress up like cats and furries. And so that's just what I want to share, and what I want to show is, like, we got to get this statement out. We got to get it out there. It needs to be hanging on every member's wall. And that's why they printed it in the Ensign again in 2002. That's why President Nelson is talking about it. In 2012, he spoke about it in General Conference.
Yeah, and I got to say, it's so sad that it comes from a source that is so entertaining in nature and also so often lampooned. But there was the blonde guy on Ancient Aliens once who said something so beautiful and pure. I just wish it wasn't on an Ancient Aliens
I thought you were going to bear your testimony about Ancient Aliens for a second.
Oh,
that was really awesome.
Yeah. No. He said something along the lines of, I want to go back and look it up, but he talked about, it was on the episode where they tried to say that Joseph Smith was visited by Moroni, and Moroni was an ancient alien. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I was like, okay, I'm not on board with that one, guys.
Is that when they called him Moroni?
Yeah, they called him Moroni, and it was obviously didn't talk to anybody that was a member of our faith before they started co-opting it as a narrative for another episode to sell more ads against. But he did say, with all the fervor in his soul, and I just believe this guy, he says that we have so utterly forgotten our origins, and our origins where we descend from the divine, that we've debased ourselves so much so that, like, the ugliness of the human condition is because we've forgotten our origins as rightful heirs of, like, greatness and the divine. And he was trying to say this divinity came from ancient aliens, but who cares whether you think it's ancient aliens, whether you think it's Vishnu, or whether you think it's the Christian hypostatically unified God and Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit. What an attitude. Like, what an attitude, and what a loss. Because we may disagree on whether or not that ancient heritage comes from ancient aliens or not, but we do not disagree on the drastic ramifications of that distance from our deity. The man has forgotten its origin story. And if it knew its origin story and believed it and felt it in its core, that we would heal, that we would unite, that Zion, as Jacob Hansen says, would become emergent, and it would just happen overnight. The city of Enoch was translated because they were just so righteous, and they walked with God, and they were of one heart and one mind, so much so that God had to take it right up into heaven. And there's nothing that does that more than the gospel of Jesus Christ, but not just the gospel, knowing that Christ died for our sins, but the fact that he is indeed our Father in heaven, who cares about even the most intimate details in our life, and is incapable of doing us evil lest he would cease to be God. And like we love our children and we want them to return home to us as the best human beings they can be. When they go to school, we want them coming back having learned everything they could have in those 8 hours, not just to glorify me and say, sing my praises, but to become like me and hopefully have their own, and to be co-participants in our glory as parents. That's the nature of man, and that's what's at stake, and that's what's lost. And the only thing that is bringing that back right now is the gospel of Jesus Christ, apparently ancient aliens, okay, and those other religions, dare I say Abrahamic faiths, that try and remind man, just like these ancient relics and ancient paintings remind man that he is divine in origin, and that has to be preserved at all costs.
And that's what's so beautiful about the Book of Mormon is the brother of Jared, his faith to see the finger of the Lord. And it mentions it. I was reading it again earlier today as I was preparing to come here, because that's in the statement. They actually quote in this 1909 statement the entire account of the brother of Jared. And he mentions it twice, that he saw the finger of the Lord, and then he saw his whole being. And when Moses comes out of his vision of the entire creation, Satan then tempts him and says, and Moses replies, "Who art thou? For I am a son of God." And just the power and the divinity that he slams down in front of Satan. Where's thy glory? I've seen God's glory, and I'm his son. And that just fills me with just so much power and love and confidence. And that is what I believe is at stake in this battle. And that's the reason I'm here. It's fun. It's important. And I just went through a huge maze trying to have you guys find a page number about this and that, just to get to that point that I am a child of God. And we could just sing the song. It could go back to primary, right? It's so simple, but so many confused people. I need to put on my shirt, I identify as, right? a child of God, because everyone's identifying as something other than a child of God.
Yeah. Okay, dude, I'm feeling this. Now, I got just a couple of questions here. Okay, just a couple of more. You're stepping onto home turf here in the next page that I see on your book, which again is available where, and what's the discount code again?
Dinosaurs in Scripture.com. Discount code is Ward.
Okay.
If you get 2 books, it's 40% off. If you get 1, it's 30. If you get 5 or more, they're pre-order. If you want to give them to, I've had people buy a couple from me.
Okay, cool. Rock on. So dinosaursinscripture.com. We'll put that we'll link that in the description. I'm reading this little ditty right here. And it says the Jaredites were chased from their homes by poisonous serpents. And what's interesting is the word dragon in English ultimately stems from ancient Greek word opakuv, or drakon, meaning draken, translated to serpent or giant sea fish. So we know that this is New World stuff here. And I live in Los Angeles. And what's the coolest thing about Los Angeles is as soon as you come out of the airport and you see La Cienega Boulevard, okay, what does La Cienega mean in Spanish? You speak Spanish, my man?
I speak Tagalog.
Oh, okay, cool. Rock on.
No Spanish.
Guapo ka, my friend.
Oh,
Guapo ka.
Maraming salamat.
I don't know the rest. I just know maganda ka and guapo ka. That's all I know.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Just say you're good looking, bro, and you're beautiful friend, assuming that she's female because it's a gendered language just like Spanish, right?
Right.
Okay, cool. Excellent. So anyway,
what does that street mean? That street
oh,
name?
La Cienega, that's what I was just getting to, is La Cienega means the swamp, okay? Basically, Los Angeles is one giant, massive river basin that is some of the biggest oil fields in the West. People don't realize, but Los Angeles was an oil town. In fact, when you go down to Santa Monica, less than 100 years ago, all of Santa Monica was oil derricks. And I even remember as a kid, because some of the oil derricks they tried to seal, but they leaked. Okay.
I've been down to the tar pits in the Brea Tar Pits.
Okay, I was going to say, yes. There's so much oil here that before humans settled it, it used to be when you run along the beach, you would always have to bring oil with you, like canola oil or vegetable oil, because you would get tar patches on your feet if you ran along the beach.
What?
Because oil rises to the top and then would wash up onto the shore, and then you'd get beach tar, it was called. A lot of very good, and like, I'm a total environmentalist and believe in good governments. Like, there are actually good environmental laws. Like, it's kind of wild. I'm a total conservative in many regards, like socially conservative. But like these Republicans and their hatred for freaking environmental law sometimes is so frustrating as a Californian, because it's like, I've lived what happens when there is no environmental law, and you're literally coming home with beach tar on your feet because there's open oil derricks just pouring the leftover fossil fuels out of the pits that the robber barons dug less than 80 years ago, and nobody wants to touch them unless the government pays for it with taxes. So it's like, I think there's a good spot for some environmental legislation. But anyway, before humans showed up, that was a great tangent. Before humans showed up, there was so much oil here, okay, that the La Brea Tar Pit started, which was a very unique formation in Los Angeles geography, where a thin layer of rainwater would be on top of these big tar pits of oil. And then during Paleolithic times, giant sloths, saber-toothed tigers, all of these kind of between the dinosaurs, but up until the woolly mammoth, animals such as dire wolves would come up, and then like some vulture would land on the water and want to take a drink, but then its beak would get stuck in the tar, and then its wings would get stuck in the tar as it tried to leave, and then a saber-toothed tiger would think, oh, I want to eat that, and it would try and jump on the bird, but then it would get stuck in, and then it would be like slowly sinking in the tar, and then the dire wolves would come and say, hey, we can jump and we can.
That's one wicked bathtub party there.
Exactly. We can attack and eat this dying saber-toothed tiger. And so then they would jump on. And the La Brea Tar Pits filled up with just thousands of years of these drowned animals whose bodies, or the bones at least, were encapsulated in tar, which perfectly preserved them. So La Brea Tar Pits examples.
It's actually so crazy when I went there with my kids to see the tar still bubbling.
Oh, yeah. It's right here.
It's just wild, and my son was just obsessed with the
look at that,
the saber-toothed tiger. I swear I took that picture. That looks exactly like when I went there.
You can just go and you can literally see all throughout Los Angeles. You used to have these tar pits, but the most famous one is now a museum called La Brea Tar Pits, right? And what's so interesting is, here this is how they would die. Okay, and like, so a woolly mammoth would die, and then a saber-toothed tiger would fight with a dire wolf, and they would all get stuck inside of these tar pits. So much so, look, there's the oil derricks in the background. So this is the modern La Brea Tar Pits. Let me make this a little bit more centered so that the audience can see it. But this is literally the pool that is now La Brea Tar Pits, and in the background you can see all of the oil derricks, right? So, let me go back.
This is similar to the Jaredites somehow, I'm assuming.
Well, yeah. So I'm going to a question here. So here's some of the really cool bones that have been taken out of La Brea Tar Pits. This is a giant mastodon or woolly mammoth. You know, they reconstructed huge skulls like this. This is a Columbian mammoth from Project 23.
Massive animals, man.
Massive animals. So this is science doing its thing, right? Well, here's my question. If dragons were around in the New World, prevalent enough to be mentioned as ubiquitously as other things, such as snakes, and, if fiery serpents are mentioned just as much as snakes or as elephants or whatever, okay, How come we're not seeing dragons in Brea Tar Pits?
Let me just come up with an amazing answer for you. I don't know.
Oh,
I just don't know. And I'm not going to pretend I know. Sorry.
because to me, a lot of times people say, how are they able to project who's going to win on election night? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Well, because you can take a sampling, even like a small 1% sampling. They're like, dude, there's millions of people that are going to vote. How can they guess with only 2,000 people answering? Well, if that 2,000 is a very good sample of the population, and there's ways that statisticians have figured out you can sample with smaller and smaller n groups, which is the statistical word for the sample size you chose. You can actually get some pretty reliable data off a sliver of maybe 10,000 people that very well represents the attitudes and opinions, the voting habits or the consumer habits or the purchasing habits of a large swath of people, of 10,000, 10 million, from with only 2,000 people. So if we can just have a giant pie and then take a small enough sliver, as long as that sliver actually goes to the center and out to the edges and truly represents the population, then you can actually say a lot with that data. To me, Brea Tar Pits is like an amazing sliver of the Pleistocene era, of prehistoric man, but within arm's reach of history and of the Bible and of ancient Phoenician writings. And, we found out off the 405 in California that there were woolly mammoths up to 10,000 years ago in California, in land that is now considered tropical, where there's parrots flying around UCSD. All right. So if from small sample sizes we can gauge consumer habits and election habits and so on and so forth, to me, Brea Tar Pits and California archaeology, paleontology et al. Is a really good sliver, and we're not finding anything that looks quite yet like dragons. Maybe we're missing out on fiery serpents.
Well,
I don't know.
To think out loud for a minute to try to entertain the idea, there definitely is there's no Tyrannosaurus, there's no Brachiosaurus, a Stegosaurus, Triceratops in the tar. And so you might say it represents or lends credibility to the scientific community, saying these are the time periods, the Paleocene, the Pleistocene.
Pleistocene.
Yeah. I don't have a very good answer for it. What I do know is that the scientists are saying that 90+% of all the animals on Earth that have lived on Earth are extinct. Okay. So think about that number for a minute. It's somewhere between 90 and 99% of all the animals on Earth are extinct. So if the saber-toothed tiger was around then, it's gone now. 10,000 years ago, how did the saber-toothed tiger go extinct, right? Good question. How did the dragons go extinct? We don't have all the answers, and I don't want to pretend to have all the answers. What I do want to do is I do want to validate the flood of Noah through the dinosaurs. And I'm sorry I didn't get to expound my research on the Jaredites. I do have some really good research in chapter 10 of the Jaredites, but let me just talk about the fossilization process, because this is so important to the dinosaur story and to the Bible and to our scriptures. So the flood of Noah is being, once again, with a lot of Genesis, is being explained away. And
okay, can you do this in like 5 minutes before we end?
Sure. So,
okay, hit it.
Okay. So the dinosaur bones are buried in these mass graveyards, okay? So we've got Canada has 1,000 centrosaurs buried in one graveyard. How did 1,000 centrosaurs get buried in one graveyard within just a few kilometers? Now, centrosaur is like a triceratops with one horn, just for those of you that are visual.
Okay.
They're all buried in this graveyard, okay? Now, Vernal, Utah, some of you may have been there. There's huge wall of dinosaur bones. And before I even learned this stuff, I asked the local ranger or paleontologist, I said, how did this wall of dinosaur bones here. This is crazy. We've got the Camarasaurus, the Allosaurus bones all mushed together. She's like, oh, this is an ancient river, and they all flooded down river and got buried. I'm like, okay, cool. That held me over for a minute. Okay. And then when I started to put together on page 62, we've got a map showing fossilized graveyards, dotting the entire globe: Morocco, Spain, China, Madagascar, and they're all buried in the same type of sedimentary rock. Sedimentary rock is buried by sediment, right? Mud and water. And all of the articles show that these dinosaurs were catastrophic event, okay? Catastrophic events. So, quick history of science in uniformitarianism was a big thing with Darwinism, with Charles Lyell and Huxley. They believed in these long Earth time frames. Things slowly evolve and change. But they were finding so much evidence of these catastrophes and these massive floods that they couldn't explain it, and they had to come up with a catastrophe. So now, if you ask any kid on the school bus that's 3 years old, he knows dinosaurs died from an asteroid, right? That's what he's going to tell you, because that's the new catastrophe. But if you go to page 69.
You know, I guess it's kind of true. Like Wes Huff, love him or hate him for his crappy anti-Mormonism, he did say something funny on Joe Rogan where he says, why are we not allowed to believe in the virgin birth of Mary, but we are forced to believe in the virgin birth of the universe? You know, I said it much more eloquently than he did, of course. But he said something funny on Joe Rogan's podcast about, you know, you're allowed to believe in one miraculous virgin birth, but not the other. That's silly. And so now you're saying all they've done is replace the catastrophe that's in the Bible of Noah's flood
with an asteroid.
With the catastrophe of the asteroid we haven't found yet. So, okay.
Yeah. So on 69, you show these dinosaurs, they're arching their necks, they're choking, and they're drowning in the common death pose, okay? All of the articles, secular articles alike, they talk about a dinosaur holocaust. They talk about them being buried by mud and sediment, swiftly buried, quickly. This one on 68 didn't even have time to finish its dinner. This fossilized fish is eating another fish, and they have a petrified ichthyosaur, which is kind of like a dolphin-like animal, giving birth. The baby is still coming out.
Really?
And it's petrified. It is fossilized, guys. We have fossilized jellyfish. They don't have bones. Page 70. We have fossilized dinosaur eggs. Okay, this is where I'm going to put in my plug for the universal model. Boom.
Oh, you're a universal model guy. Yeah.
Dean Sessions nails it, guys. He explains how an egg can petrify or fossilize. Think about this for a second. An ostrich egg is actually bigger than most dinosaur eggs, by the way. How many ostrich eggs on the earth are petrified or fossilized? None, right? So why are these eggs special? Why is a jellyfish able to sit there for millions of years and actually petrify, get fossilized? Mineral placement theory, right? Well, there's nothing to replace in a jellyfish. Guys, he explains the hypertherm and the hydroplanet model, and it makes so much sense. Okay, why is the Earth perfectly round? And what does a water droplet form? What shape does a water droplet form in space? A perfect sphere, right? Yeah. So, I mean, the answers are out there. Dean spent 25 years of his life researching this before he even published the book in 2016, 2017.
I still got to get him on the show, man. I got to catch up with him.
I love Dean. And this is
He was supposed to come down here, and then I ended up having to go to Egypt, but okay.
This is something else nobody knows. And I want to count how many things I've shared that nobody knows, okay? Maybe you've seen this. It's a quartz rock crystal with what is in this rock? Water. You know it. Awesome. There's the drop right there. Found it. Water droplet inside. Because he teaches that rocks have water inside of them. Guys, the scientific community is in a bit of a dark age when it comes to geology, comes to historical science. Obviously, we have amazing medical technology. Please don't think I'm an anti-science guy. I love heart surgery.
Did you get the vax?
Did I get the vax on live?
Dude. Can't ask someone that.
Did you follow the counsel of your prophet?
Dude,
Like,
vaccines are a very personal thing between me and my
Oh,
doctor.
I'm just
HIPAA.
I'm just kidding. Dude, I
So-
said that at the Firm Foundation. Did you watch my speech?
I don't remember.
Oh, no, it was so funny. I'll tell you afterwards. But I knew they were all a bunch of conservatives in the audience.
So you showed your
to-
vaccine status.
No, to
in
throw out candy, I said, okay, we got to do some trivia. And at first, like, when was the church founded? 1830. Who was Joseph Smith's wife? Emma Smith. Just low-hanging fruit, right? And finally, I was like, what lifestyle and diet does the Book of Mormon, does the Book of Mormon endorse? And people are like, carnivore? I'm like, yeah. And finally, I was like, did Joseph Smith practice polygamy? You know? And then, like, did he use a stone in the hat? You know?
Yeah.
And then finally, when we
We're
had to
getting
say,
harder.
yes, the answer was like, did you follow the advice of your prophet and go get the vax? Dude, like, literally, I can't remember what answer I did. I said something a lot about, like, no, and the Book of Mormon actually happened in Mesoamerica, and Rod Meldrum literally ran on stage and, like, chased me around. That was all in good fun. It was funny. It was hilarious. It was like a little sketch, for lack of a better term. But yeah, that was funny. So that's a question I always ask
entertainment.
people at the Heartlander conference, just because all of a sudden I know they'll be like, you know. So anyway, keep going.
Oh man, that where were we?
Well, you were saying that the catastrophic death in these bone graveyards of all of these different dinosaurs in various stages of even eating other fish or giving birth, or, you know, ways that show that they had to have died while catastrophically being overcome. You're saying that's a greater evidence of a worldwide flood, dare I say, the firmament opening up and the, quote, waters of the great deep flushing out the dinosaurs than some asteroid that we've never found.
Absolutely. So the waters of the deep is a quick reference, right? But there's a lot of science around it. And that's the beautiful thing about the universal model is Dean is pointing out where the fountains of the deep came from. He can point. We went to different craters in Arizona on a tour, and it was beautiful to see. This is where the water's coming from, guys. This is it. So there's evidence of a worldwide flood, and it's mentioned in the scriptures. Jesus mentions it in Matthew. Alma 10:22 talks about a flood, talks about the flood of Noah. It's mentioned in Doctrine and Covenants. It's mentioned in Moses and Pearl of Great Price, and obviously it's mentioned in Genesis. In addition, we have ancient prophets who were modern prophets in the Restoration speaking about the earth being baptized by immersion. The scriptures, Genesis clearly says that every mountain was covered. Was it 7 meters? I mean, we just go into like catastrophes that happen. I mean, we know that when Christ came, there was huge catastrophe. Whole cities were sunk, right?
Yeah.
And so, like,
yeah,
these layers, they formed rapidly. I mean, we have layers. And speaking of another Joe Rogan podcast, was Randall Carlson went on and showed boulders the size of homes that were being pushed by the floodwaters. We have layers. For example, the Morrison Formation on page 79 covers 7 states, hundreds of miles, the same color of dirt. It's one layer, the Morrison Formation. It's the purple layer. That's where the dinosaurs are found. It covers all these, and I mean, I can, like I said, I can go on all day. There's so much evidence that once you start laying it out, I'm like, whoa, there was a flood and it covered the earth. And how did Noah do it? And there's some science about how Noah even did it. How did he fit all the animals on the ark? But first of all, we don't know. We know that God helped him, and we know that Jesus walked on water, and we don't know how he did it. We're not going to know all the miracles and how they happened. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah. Okay. Well, unfortunately, we are already well into overtime. So, and we got to all good things must come to an end, including live streams, with our favorite catastrophists here. You know what I'm saying? Would you self-identify as a catastrophist, my friend?
I'd be happy to self-identify. I am a creationist catastrophist.
Oh, is that a much more palatable term? Is it? See, creationist to me, that's too Gavin Ortland, nice guy Protestant. Catastrophist, that's like punk rock, middle finger to the secular establishment.
I actually prefer being a scriptural literalist, to be honest. As insulting as I've had it thrown at me as an insult. And I was like, great, I'll take the scriptures literally. I'm good with that.
Well, I think there's actually a lot more to be said about that, because I don't think everything can be brushed off as myth and metaphor, especially when, like, if these things happened, they would have been very deeply profound and important and spiritual for people, and they would have wanted to say them very literally. And you read the Old Testament, and all the time these extra details pop up where they say, oh, and this is the man who saw God on the mountain, which is a 2 days journey from where this was built. You know, which is exactly what you would say if you had limited space, wanted to convey that it was real, and like actually wanted people to make a pilgrimage to that site. Whereas if you were speaking metaphorically, you wouldn't do that. And that's all over the Old Testament. All of these linguistic and literally interpreted cues, they're all over the Old Testament. And I don't think they are always speaking symbolically. The Jews were very, very beautifully artistic and literate people that used all kinds of profound metaphor and symbolism, even writing entire scriptures boustrophodontically, if I pronounce it correctly.
Ooh, yeah.
But it doesn't mean that everything was artistic either. I think they were speaking much more literally than people feel comfortable giving them credit, because they want to fit in with modern academic society. But that might just be our ball. That might be just be our ball. So anyway, one last plug for your stuff. Where can people find you, my man? How can they get a discount on your book if they want it?
dinosaursinscripture.com. Ward is the discount code, or if you buy multiples, you can definitely get a discount. And I appreciate you having me on. And I did have evidence of maybe discovering Noah's Ark in the book as well, which is
okay.
Kind of a little bonus in there. We also like to
nice
speak...
website, by the way, bro. Look at this. This is a great website.
Oh, it's
man.
a start. It's just getting started. Thanks.
Really? Nah, this is a good website, dude.
I do want people. The goal is to help people realize their divinity, right? And that's the goal. And this is a fun way, and I think it points to it. We go into some of the science at the end, stasis fossils and different things like that. So, thanks for having me on. It's been really fun, and I do hear you. Those people that say there's a lot of symbolism and we're trying to decipher it. I understand. I get it. There is a lot to it, and I see both sides, and I appreciate everybody listening in.
Okay,
Ward
cool.
Radio. Woo!
All right, awesome. So you guys heard it here first. You can get a big fat percentage taken off of your book or books if you want to buy it at the website. It's super simple to remember. It's just dinosaursinscripture.com, waiting for you to check it out. All right. His name is Jeremy. The book is Dinosaurs in Scripture. It's eponymous, like hippopotamus. So you guys could check it out there on the website, pre-order it. Thanks for hanging out with us. If you're a person of means that wants to support our channel, please make sure you go to the Ward Radio merch store and pick up a shirt there. You can also buy our infamous War in Heaven veteran hats. If you got a couple extra bucks floating around, please consider a generous contribution through Zelle or a contribution through Venmo. We accept both of those. And as always, for this and more, please make sure you guys check us out at wardradio.com.
I'm buying a hat.
Yeah.
I built a rocket in my basement.
They can still.
I'm gonna fly it to the moon.
I really am buying a hat. I love that shirt.
Go buy a hat. Okay, we're out in 10.
You're gonna feel my sonic boom.